we also had, as part of the French Olympics, a depiction of the beheading of France's queen, Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette.
So you have the queen holding her head, followed by fire blasting out of the ground, and heavy metal musicians playing devilish-sounding music while the French celebrate beheading their queen. This, too, by the way, has a religious aspect to it. So we what do we know about the organizer, the artistic director of these ceremonies? We know that he's a touch light in the loafers. We know that he's a leftist. But, it's France, so doesn't that describe everybody? We know that the scene was meant to call to mind, in fairness, I think this part is true, it was meant to call to mind the pagan basis of the Olympic Games, but because it's happening in 2024 rather than, 24 BC or centuries earlier BC, we know that it's, in order to be pagan, it's got to reject millennia of development, specifically after the incarnation. So it's a rejection of Christ. It's a in that tableau of the Last Supper. It's a rejection of the Christian civilization that once was France. It's a celebration of the French Revolution, which beheaded Queen Marie Antoinette, and which has religious overtones to that too. The beheading of the Queen, one of the worst events in the history of Europe. The French Revolution was a kind of return of paganism, a rejection of Christianity. They went into Notre Dame, turned it into a temple to reason. They remade everything after secularism and atheism and tried to destroy the last vestiges of Christianity in France. But one of the most famous descriptions of all this came from Edmund Burke, an Englishman, in his book Reflections on the Revolution in France. And the most famous passage of that work refers to Marie Antoinette. There was a time when I knew this by heart, but I'll make sure I don't miss a word here. Burke writes, "It is now 16 or 17 years since I saw the Queen of France, then the Dauphiness at Versailles, and surely never lighted on this orb, which she hardly seemed to touch, a more delightful vision. I saw her just above the horizon, decorating and cheering the elevated sphere she just began to move in, glittering like the morning star, full of life and splendor and joy. Oh, what a revolution! Oh, what a heart must I have to contemplate without emotion and elevation. That elevation and that fall. Little did I dream that, when she added titles of veneration to those of enthusiastic, distant, respectful love, that she should ever be obliged to carry the sharp antidote against disgrace concealed in that bosom. Little did I dream that I should have lived to see such disasters fallen upon her in a nation of gallant men, in a nation of men of honor and of cavaliers. I thought 10,000 swords must have leaped from their scabbards to avenge even a look that threatened her with insult. But the age of chivalry is gone." It goes on to the even more famous parts of that passage. I read all of this and because he's obviously not just writing about Queen Marie Antoinette here. There's something deeper going on. This passage has been mocked, even at the time, as being so over the top. For, the Queen of France was a nice lady, but why is over the top? Because obviously he is referring literally to Queen Marie Antoinette, but he's referring by way of allegory to Mary, the Queen of Heaven. Mary, Mary. One's the Queen of France, one's the Queen of Heaven. Listen to this language. Yes, the most delightful vision. She hardly seemed to touch the earth. She's glittering like the morning star, full of life, splendor and joy. This is the language of prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. What a revolution. She added titles of veneration. Of course, we traditionally and famously venerate Mary. And you would imagine that 10,000 swords would leap from their scabbards to avenge even an insulting look. What is France? Paris is the city of Notre Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris. It's the most famous church there. So the French Revolution was so evil, in part because of the literal action of beheading the queen, but also in the figurative action, in what that means by way of allegory, that it was an overthrow of Christianity in favor of atheism, in favor of a new kind of paganism, the worship in Notre Dame de Paris of the goddess Reason, a statue of the goddess Reason. That new paganism is even worse than the old paganism. You think of the new pagan cults, like the New Age cults, they refer to Christ. They refer to Christianity. They're a perversion of Christianity. Modern liberalism is a perversion of Christendom, of this. The civilization that gave rise to liberalism was Christendom. And then liberalism attacks that which begat it. It's a violation of it, as you see in the French Revolution. Very much in keeping with France's modern history. The Olympics has always been super lib. That's one of the reasons I never really watched it. It's this very kumbaya. We have to pretend that all the nations of the earth are equal, and even though all the best athletes just train in America, and then we let them go back to their countries and compete against us, and it's all we are the world kind of nonsense. It even comes about the modern games at the end of the 19th century. This age of advancing liberalism. And it's the libs. I know some conservatives like the Olympics too, but it's generally libs who like the idea of the Olympics. Well, now we're seeing the darker meaning of that liberalism, which is that it is explicitly, overtly a rejection of Christianity. That's always been what it is. Now, speaking of belligerent liberalism, I got some tea to spill. Get your saucers out. I got tea to spill. The Murdoch family is at war with itself because Rupert Murdoch, the billionaire tycoon behind Wall Street Journal and the New York Post, and especially Fox News, is going to war with his family to keep Fox News right-wing. Some of us would say Fox has moved a little bit to the left in recent years, but Rupert wants to stop that, according to a report out of the New York Times. Because Rupert Murdoch is a man of a certain age. I think he's 93 now or something. He knows that time is short. And one of his kids seems pretty conservative, Lachlan Murdoch. The rest of the Murdoch kids seem pretty liberal. And so Murdoch is trying to go in and change a trust that was established years ago, 25 years ago or so, to make Lachlan the head of Fox News, the head of News Corp, so that he can keep Fox News right-wing. And his argument is this will benefit all of the heirs. The other kids are still going to get their piece of the pie. They're just not going to have control because Rupert fears that they're going to make Fox News even more liberal than it's become in recent years. Now, will this work? The trust was supposed to be totally unchangeable, but a Nevada probate commissioner has found that Murdoch would be able to edit the trust if he can prove that he's acting in good faith and for the sole benefit of his heirs. So he's got to prove, and I think he can prove this, that keeping Fox News right-wing is in the financial benefit of these shareholders, of these beneficiaries, which is obviously true. If Fox News goes left, it's going to lose its audience and it's not going to be any good to anybody. But the family is still fighting Rupert Murdoch on this point. They don't want him to take the steps necessary to keep Fox News right-wing. Meaning the Fox News heirs, the Murdoch kids, the other Murdoch kids, are actively working in court against their own financial interest. That is how much pressure there is to be liberal in the elite spheres of our society. They would rather lose money. They would rather lose their inheritance than be scorned at cocktail parties, than be considered a right-winger, heaven forfend, a Trumper. That's the pressure in our culture. Even when billions of dollars are on the line, people who move in the elite circles of our culture would still rather be on the side of the liberals and forego their inheritance. So much so that the tycoon, the pater familias, has to go to court to protect the financial well-being of his progeny. That's where we are. You think it's tough to be a conservative in this culture? You think it's tough to score some cultural wins? Yeah, you're right. People would forego billions for it. So yes, all of us, we're going to have to fight very hard. The winds are against us. That was a great clip. Now stop. Ring the bell. Thank you. Appreciate it. See you next time.